A good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative Headline News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, a massive fire at a business compound in Chase Village has resulted in tens of millions of dollars in estimated losses and damage to nearby buildings. I wonder if that is an act of arson or if it was something that happened accidentally. Despite the destruction, nearby residents and business owners say they are grateful the blaze was contained quickly. It's strange how these kind of things only happen since the UNC in office. And you know, the strange thing about it is the PNM patriots might want to blame UNC individuals for doing it, if it ends up being arson. Vancouver residents and business owners are yesterday, praising fire officials and the Water Sewage Authority for their quick response to the fire near the Chase Village flyover. They say it's not for such an immediate response, the situation could have been worse and resulted in the loss of more businesses or even lives. And definitely, life is priceless. Businesses, you could always get back a business, get back a loan, or get some type of funding from the government. The fire on the Globe manufacturing compound began at around 9:30 a.m. Once again, what caused it? But of course, only an investigation will determine that. 6 fire tenders and more than 40 fire officers, along with water trucks and staff from the Water and Sewage Authority, responded within minutes. Now, that is wonderful news. News that you barely heard about when the Mighty Morphin Ghanaian Coalpot Bicycle PNM was in office too. It's like everything starts to function better when the UNC is in office.
Vancouver residents and business owners are today praising fire officials and the Water and Sewage Authority for their quick response to a fire near the Chase Village flyover. They say, were it not for such an immediate response, the situation could have been worse and resulted in the loss of more businesses or even lives. The fire on the Globe manufacturing compound began at around 9:30 a.m. 6 fire tenders and more than 40 fire officers, along with water trucks and staff from the Water and Sewage Authority, responded within minutes. Deputy Chief Fire Officer Ansar Ali confirmed that there were no casualties up to news time.
Throughout the operations, we were supported by WASA, who would still be supplying the area, and in addition to that, they had their trucks shuttling water to and from the site as it was needed. So we were well supported by them.
A nearby homeowner said although he arrived home just minutes after the fire started, the extent of the damage to the nearby compound was already obvious.
And you could see the smoke was flying over the house straight across to the triangle. There's still smoke in there. It was worse than that, thicker, and you were smelling like plastic and things like that burning. So you lock up the house and try to avoid the smoke and remain indoors. I mean, the fire service, thank God, reported quickly and tried to contain the fire, but the smoke was still terrible.
Nearby roadside vendors abandoned their stalls to help the authorities in whatever way they could.
When we saw the large amount of smoke, it was a bit terrifying, but the officers them came and they handled the situation quite well. And I happened to be here supporting them, directing traffic as well too. Everything worked hand in hand and everything was under control.
This one was too dramatic. You were selling the plastic, the burning. We was literally getting smoke out whole morning. And it was just terrible because you're seeing a lot of people just frantic, traffic. It was horrible this morning.
The owners of the affected compound declined to speak on camera, but TTT News was informed that tens of millions of dollars worth of stock was destroyed. Gregory McBurney, TTT News.
The power outage that affected several areas across Trinidad on Monday was triggered by a technical failure at the Trinidad Generation Unlimited facility, as confirmed by Public Utilities Minister Barry Padara. Now, he is really doing a good job. I had some issues with him for a while, but I'm definitely, that man does work real hard. I'm talking real truly there, but truly, the man really is a hard-working minister. The incident occurred at approximately 3:27 p.m. when a faulty control card on a generation unit tripped, causing a sudden loss of 80 megawatts of power. So this time, it wasn't a branch like what took place under the PNM, a special branch, caused the trip the last time. This disruption activated an automatic load shedding system to protect the national grid, resulting in temporary blackouts in Port of Spain, Maraval, and parts of central Trinidad. Thank God it didn't end up reaching Sangre Grande. While TNTech managed to restore service to all affected customers within 40 minutes, the minister has since ordered a comprehensive nationwide audit of the country's electricity infrastructure to identify vulnerabilities and enhance future system reliability. Some individuals online on TDT commented and said, well, actually, it wasn't 40 minutes. In some places, it took a few hours. I'm not sure. People that are watching my videos, comment and let me know, how long did it take in your area?
It had to do with a faulty keypad on one of TGU's facilities in terms of the power grid.
Power, he said, was restored relatively quickly, with most areas regaining service within a half hour.
What happens is once there's a trip on the grid, it has a ripple effect. So there were 13 areas in Trinidad that was impacted by low voltage. In some instances, the lights went completely off. They were able to restore it in some instances in 15 minutes in Port of Spain, 22 minutes in parts of Central, and in some instances, very few instances, it went on for about 33 minutes.
Minister Padarat stressed that the incident has highlighted deeper issues within the system, prompting a comprehensive review of national electricity infrastructure.
However, I have spoken with the board of TGU, and now we're going to get a board of power gen very shortly, the RIC, as well as TNTech, for there to be a review of all existing TNTech infrastructure, substations.
Referencing previous nationwide outages, Minister Padarat said this is not the first time failures have exposed vulnerabilities within the power grid.
You would recall a few years ago that there were claims that a tree branch had fallen on the Gandhi village substation, and that is what caused the nationwide blackout and so on. When I came into office, the then minister took a very hands-off approach to a lot of the utility companies. The challenges over the last number of years were not addressed in terms of the change out of the infrastructure, addressing a lot of the dilapidated mains, etc.
And he said government is already preparing for the renegotiation of major power purchase agreements to ensure there is sufficient manufactured power onto the grid.
You would have seen a couple weeks ago there were concerns about low voltage, particularly in the central area. The power purchase agreements will come, some of them, not all of them. The ones, I believe it's Trinity Power, Power Gen, those come up for renegotiating in 2029. So those negotiations will start very shortly.
Minister Padarat was speaking to journalists in Penal after the commissioning of new lighting infrastructure at 2 recreational spaces on Monday night. Sonolala, TTT News.
Thursday, May 7th, Trinidad and Tobago weather report will summarize expect hazy, breezy, and mostly fair conditions, although scattered showers and thunderstorms are likely to interrupt the sunshine. Detailed conditions day will feature a mix of hazy sunshine and periodic cloudiness. Scattered thunderstorms are forecasted for the afternoon, particularly favoring hilly and western areas of Trinidad. Saharan dust mild to moderate concentrations of Saharan dust are present. People with respiratory sensitivities should take precautions. Temperatures are expected to reach around 29 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius. Nighttime lows will be near 24 degrees Celsius. Wind and cease breezy conditions with winds from the east to east-southeast at 5 to 35 kilometers per hour. Seas remain moderate with waves up to 2.0 meters in open waters.
Regional news now in Guyana. Minister of Education Sonia Parag officially commissioned a new $233 million facility at the Sophia Primary School, significantly expanding the institution's capacity to serve the community. Irfan Ali administration continues to invest in their people. What more you want from a government than that? The modern structure features 9 well-equipped classrooms, dedicated washroom blocks, a head teacher's office, and a spacious auditorium designed to facilitate both academic and extracurricular activities. This substantial investment aims to alleviate overcrowding and provide a more comfortable, conducive learning environment for both students and educators. By prioritizing such infrastructure upgrades, the government continues its mission to enhance the quality of education and ensure that school facilities keep pace with the growing needs of the nation's youth. You see, as I said before, when you have a good government in office, they invest in the people, they invest in infrastructure, and of course, diversify the economy as well. And that's exactly what the Irfan Ali administration continues to do in Guyana. The Jamaican government has confirmed its intention to appeal a landmark constitutional court ruling that voided an environmental permit for mining in the ecological sensitive Dry Harbour Mountains of St. Anne. The court's decision struck down a 2020 ministerial move to override a regulator's rejection of the project, declaring it unconstitutional and a threat to residents' rights to a healthy environment. I'm telling you, these type of rulings might end up leading to where Jamaica can't end up investing in the oil industry, you know. The government better really pursue this, because I'm telling you, you cannot allow this kind of nonsense and these radical leftists to come into your country and in your government system and even in the courts to tell you don't invest in the oil industry. I'm just telling you, this is what we could lead. Information Minister Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon announced the appeal following a cabinet meeting, signaling the administration's plan to challenge the ruling that effectively halted Bengal Development Limited's quarrying operations. This legal battle highlights the ongoing tension between industrial development and environmental protection in Jamaica's ecologically fragile system. Now, the thing about it is, okay, quarrying, you really have to be careful where you're doing that. And let's just hope that this is just a case like that, where it was probably very close to a forested area or something like that. Let's just hope that the courts don't end up going extremely woke and saying don't invest in the oil industry either.
Will the government be appealing the Constitutional Court ruling on Bengal mining permit? And in light of the court's judgment, does the government now believe it should review the role or the authority of ministers to overrule decisions of regulatory bodies?
All right, so let me start with, this is a post-cabinet press briefing and what we discussed in cabinet. We briefly discussed the ruling, and it is my understanding that the Attorney General's chambers, they will be appealing. That's my understanding. In terms of timeline on that, I can find that out and get that back to you. In terms of the implications of it, we've not been able to go through, I know I personally have not gone through the full judgment, and that's not been brought to cabinet for us to look at what are the implications coming from it. But what I do understand is that from my discussions with the Attorney General is that the ruling will be appealed.
Head of the newly established Department of Private Sector Development, Christo Primus, is urging Vincentians in the diaspora to invest in their homeland. You're living away in America and Canada and UK and stuff like that, invest in your country as well. Speaking at the most recent Invest SVG meeting in the British Virgin Islands, Primus shared how his department has helped bridge the gap between the private sector and the government by informing and guiding policymakers on measures that support business growth. That's what you need to do. Focus on diversifying your economy, expanding your tourism industry. Do not listen to the IMF and Prime Minister Godwin Friday. Do not listen to the IMF and go and increase any taxes on your citizens. He noted that legislation to improve and advance business development has also been implemented, making it more readily accessible to business owners.
The first intervention is the creation of a Private Sector Advisory Council. Now, the creation of this council, it is intended that private sector entities would have a seat at the table. The idea is for businesses, private businesses, and government practitioners can sit, discuss challenges and obstacles to doing business, and have these discussions inform government policy in shaping and creating that environment for businesses to grow. is the amendment of the Fiscal Incentive Act. Now, the Fiscal Incentives Act is a piece of legislation which my former department and now the Department of Private Sector Development administers in allowing businesses to access concessions, tax-free holidays, and etc., so that the business can, in setting up, get a footing in the local industry without having to meet all those significant initial costs, which are normally significant challenges to businesses establishing and grow.
Chief Education Officer Dr. Ramona Archer Bradshaw has defended teachers in Barbados against claims of inadequate commitment, insisting that the majority go above and beyond for their students. Maybe you might be the best person to make that statement, though. Her remarks, because it may not be impartial, that's what I'm trying to say. Her remarks address growing public concern over the heavy reliance on private lessons leading up to the common entrance exam. That's exactly what takes place here in Trinidad too, because the reality is most teachers do not spend much time with their students individually to ensure that they are learning and understanding the work properly. But remember, it's large classrooms, but still, teachers are supposed to do more, a little more. They are human beings, but a little more, just to ensure that your students are really understanding their work. While some critics argue that extra lessons have become a necessity due to classroom gaps, Dr. Archer Bradshaw maintained that teachers are giving 110% and attributed the trend to parents' desire for placement in specific schools. Yeah, but the thing about it is, what is the problem? If you are not really fulfilling your duties properly, that's why the parents will have to end up looking for these extra lesson classes and stuff like that, so that their children could improve in their studies. Not so? But anyhow, she emphasized that educators frequently work through weekends and holidays to ensure students are prepared for their transition to secondary education. Yeah, but if it is you only teaching your students to be able to reach certain, to be able to pass for certain schools, isn't that a problem? I mean, come on. You kind of admitting that there's a problem, because if it is you're saying that the parents are sending their children to extra lessons because they want them to pass for certain schools, why are you not teaching your students properly for them to be able to pass to for those schools without extra lessons? It's just a question. Just a question. The government of the Bahamas has announced that it has reached an agreement with Emira to acquire Grand Bahama Power Company, aiming to lower electricity costs and align the island with the national energy strategy. That's great news. Anytime people have to pay less for their bills or pay less money when they collect their bills or receive their bills, that is good news. The deal, financed through international banks and backed by the government, will retain Bahamian staff and management while transitioning customers to a new tariff structure designed to provide relief for households and businesses. It sounds interesting. Will it end up really resulting in people paying less? Time alone will tell, but it sounds so. It really does sound so. International news now. At a White House event on Wednesday, President Donald Trump shared a humorous story about his phone's autocorrect repeatedly changing Melania to Melody in his social media posts. The president joked that he would often post tributes to the First Lady without proofreading. Well, Mr. Man, you learn your lesson, eh? At least hopefully he did, leading to public criticism that he didn't know his own wife's name. He even quipped that he eventually asked the military to step in and fix the crazy machine to avoid further trouble at home, Lord Father. Because the wife will be like, you calling me Melody for, boy? Who's Melody? You know, like, oh, Kim. Who the hell is Kim? Only people in the Caribbean might know what I'm talking about. That's a Calypso, a soca song from years ago. The light-hearted anecdote was shared during a Mother's Day ceremony honoring military families, where both the President and First Lady praised the resilience of those in service.
I love the name Melody because for a long time, you know, they have spell correct and word correct and these crazy machines that we use to put out truths, or they used to be called tweets. And every time I wrote Melania, it would correct to Melody. So I do things, and I work very fast, very fast. Blah, 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 and I talk about it, and I say, and Melania is fantastic, and happy Mother's Day, Melania, our great First Lady, Melania. But it would spell correct and word correct to Melody. And sometimes I wouldn't proofread it, and I'd say, and I would get just absolute decimated. These people would decimate. They said he didn't know the name of his wife. He keeps calling her. And I said, what the hell is wrong with this machine? I didn't know about that little feature, but I got that corrected eventually. You know who corrected? The military. I said, come here, you got to correct this. You're killing me. I took more abuse. She's been called Melody a lot. Anyway, I had to explain it to you this way. I stood up here to explain it to you. I apologize.
President Donald Trump announced on Wednesday that his administration's aggressive crackdown on narco-terrorists, drug dealers, has reduced maritime drug smuggling by a staggering 97%. And I'm sure it ain't over yet. The president attributed this success to a new policy of using lethal military strikes against cartel vessels, claiming the strategy has nearly eradicated the drug trade by the sea. Now, we know it isn't near being eliminated, but it has been reduced, and that is wonderful news. He contrasted this approach with previous revolving door justice systems, emphasizing that traffickers now face immediate and permanent consequences. This announcement coincides with a new national security strategy that officially prioritizes the elimination of Western Hemisphere cartels to protect American borders. And as I keep telling people, when they talk about due process, there's no such thing as due process when the enemy is foreign. You understand that? Due process is when it's pertaining to individuals living in your own country. He can't just go and blow up places in America that are owned by drug cartels. He can go and raid them, though, and I hope that he does. But at the end of the day, when you're dealing with foreign enemies, you can use deadly military force. That's totally different.
For years, they'd grab a boat and they'd bring him in and they'd see a judge and they'd let him out, and the next day he's back in his country, bring in more drugs in. Nothing worked. We're down nothing. Get worse, worse, worse. Down 97%. And we're trying to figure who the 3% are, because we consider them to be maybe the bravest people anywhere in the world. You look at those boats, pum, pum, and you feel terribly, except for one thing. Those boats, 25,000 people die from just a couple of those boats. Think of it, from drugs, ruin families, ruin everything. And when you see that, you say, thank you very much.
Bible quote of the day. Revelation 19:9-11. Then the angel said to me, write this, blessed are those who are invited to the wedding supper of the Lamb. And he added, these are the true words of God. At this I fell at his feet to worship him. But he said to me, don't do that. I am a fellow servant with you and with your brothers and sisters who hold to the testimony of Jesus. Worship God. For it is the spirit of prophecy who bears testimony to Jesus. I saw heaven standing open, and there before me was a white horse, whose rider is called Faithful and True. With justice he judges and wages war.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's headline news. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe, most of all. In Jesus' name.